The boarding gate had already begun final calls when the woman in the tailored cream coat suddenly froze. She wasn't looking at the departure screen anymore. She was staring at the tired single father standing a few feet away, holding a folded airport map in one hand and his sleepy 8-year-old daughter in the other. "What did you say?" she asked quietly. The man looked embarrassed. "I was just wondering. Which shuttle goes to St. Gabriel Children's Hospital? I've never been to this city." Her eyes widened. Without another word, she turned to the airline attendant. "I won't be taking this flight." The attendant blinked in confusion. "Ma'am, this is your private charter." "I know." She looked back at the father. "Cancel it." Ryan Mercer had spent most of his life fixing other people's problems. As an aircraft maintenance mechanic in a small Midwest town, he trusted bolts more than promises. 3 years earlier, his wife, Emma, had died from an aggressive illness that emptied their savings long before it emptied their home. Now every morning started the same. Pack lunches. Wake Lily. Work overtime. Pretend everything was okay. It rarely was. The envelope inside his backpack held everything he had left. A handwritten recommendation from Lily's pediatrician, a small envelope of cash collected by neighbors, and a single train ticket that hadn't gotten them far enough. When severe storms canceled rail service, strangers pooled enough money to buy them 2 economy airline seats. St. Gabriel Children's Hospital was Lily's last chance to enter an experimental treatment program for her rare neurological condition. Missing the appointment meant waiting another year. She didn't have another year. Ryan hated asking anyone for help, but airports felt like giant puzzles built for people who traveled every week. So when he noticed the elegant woman standing near the information display, he simply asked for directions. He had no idea who she was. No idea that photographers outside the terminal had spent all morning waiting for her arrival. No idea she was Evelyn Cross, founder of one of the nation's largest medical technology companies. She almost answered automatically. Then she heard the destination. St. Gabriel. Not just any hospital. That hospital. Her flight wasn't for business. It was for an international award ceremony honoring her company's newest cancer diagnostic system. Months of preparation. Thousands of guests. Worldwide media coverage. Yet she slowly closed the boarding pass in her hand. Something inside her had shifted. As airport staff scrambled to understand why one of America's most recognizable billionaires had canceled a multi-million-dollar itinerary, Evelyn quietly walked beside Ryan. "I know the hospital." Ryan smiled politely. "Thanks. Just pointing me toward the shuttle is enough." She hesitated. "I'd rather drive you." He immediately shook his head. "We're okay." She admired that answer. People usually recognized her within seconds. Asked for photos. Business cards. Money. Ryan asked for directions. Nothing more. Finally, she smiled. Then humor an old woman who's trying to avoid wasting a perfectly good limousine. Ryan laughed despite himself. Lily looked up. "Do limousines have cup holders?" That tiny question broke the tension. The drive should have taken 40 minutes. 20 minutes in, traffic stopped completely. A fuel truck had overturned across the interstate. Emergency crews estimated nearly 2 hours before roads reopened. Ryan's face lost all color. He checked the appointment letter. They had exactly 73 minutes left. He whispered to himself, "We're going to miss it." Evelyn looked through the windshield. Then at the hospital skyline barely visible across the river. Without hesitation, she opened the door. "We're walking." Her security team protested instantly. "Impossible. Unsafe. Too far." She ignored every objection. Ryan lifted Lily into his arms. Together they crossed pedestrian bridges, narrow sidewalks, construction detours, and crowded city blocks. For the first time in years, Evelyn wasn't surrounded by executives. She was simply keeping pace beside a father who refused to put his daughter down, even when exhaustion shook his legs. Halfway there, Lily quietly asked a question neither adult expected. "Miss Evelyn." "Yes." "Have you ever been scared?" Evelyn smiled sadly. "More times than I'd like to admit." "Even now?" She looked ahead. "Especially now?" Ryan noticed something in her voice. Not fear of missing a ceremony. Something older. Something heavier. When they finally reached St. Gabriel, another obstacle waited. The receptionist frowned. "I'm sorry." Ryan's stomach dropped. The research program closed enrollment this morning. Everything inside him collapsed. He had made it, and still arrived too late. Lily squeezed his hand. "It's okay, Daddy." Those 3 words hurt more than any rejection ever could. Ryan quietly folded the appointment letter and prepared to leave. Then Evelyn stepped forward. No, she spoke calmly. I know this program. The receptionist recognized her immediately. Within minutes, the hospital's research director hurried downstairs. Ryan assumed Evelyn was simply calling in a favor. He was wrong. Years earlier, Evelyn's only son had died from a disease no experimental treatment could reach in time. His final journal contained one sentence she had never forgotten. No parent should lose hope because science arrived too late. That sentence became the mission behind her company. The hospital's experimental program existed because Evelyn had personally funded it after losing her son. But one rule had always remained untouched. No exceptions after enrollment closed. Not even for donors. She stared at the research director. If rules protect fairness, they matter. He nodded. But fairness also means recognizing extraordinary circumstances. She placed Ryan's weathered envelope on the desk. Inside were neighborhood donations, children's drawings, receipts showing every sacrifice made. This family crossed 3 states without asking for special treatment. Silence filled the room. Finally, the director slowly smiled. The ethics board is still meeting upstairs. He looked toward Lily. I believe they'll want to hear this story before making today's final decision. Hours later, Ryan sat outside the conference room holding Lily's favorite stuffed rabbit. Neither of them spoke. Then the door opened. The director walked toward them. His smile said everything before he did. We're accepting Lily. Ryan covered his face. Years of strength finally gave way. Lily simply whispered, So, we came in time. He nodded, unable to speak. Weeks turned into months. Treatment wasn't easy. There were setbacks, scary scans, sleepless nights. But there were also tiny victories. One stronger step, one steadier hand, one brighter smile. Evelyn visited only occasionally, never with cameras, never with reporters. Sometimes she brought books, sometimes puzzles. Sometimes she simply sat quietly while Ryan made coffee from the hospital vending machine. Their friendship grew in silence rather than headlines. Nearly a year later, Ryan returned to the same airport, not because they were desperate, because Lily had been invited to speak at a children's medical fundraiser. She walked through the terminal without assistance, still slower than other kids, but walking. Near the information desk, she suddenly tugged Ryan's sleeve. Daddy, he smiled. I know. It was the exact place where everything had changed. Moments later, Evelyn arrived. This time she carried no boarding pass, only a small framed photograph. It showed 3 people walking across a crowded bridge. A father carrying his daughter. A billionaire keeping pace beside them. On the back she'd written just one sentence. The most important destination in life is often the one that changes who we become on the way there. Ryan looked at the picture, then at Lily laughing beside the airport window. He realized something extraordinary. He had asked for directions that day, but none of them had ended up where they originally planned. Sometimes the greatest miracles don't begin with money, influence, or perfect timing. Sometimes they begin with one humble question, and one stranger willing to stop moving long enough to truly listen.